top line in terms of the findings of the report, which are mostly about use of force. Again, what we're able to look at are community-level explanations for use of force, which includes crime, home occupancy, poverty rates, education rates, percentage of the population who are male between 18 and 34, to the disproportionate numbers who are caught up in criminal activities. All of those things we're able to analyze. Controlling for each of those elements, and doing other fancy statistical things. That's their technical term. I see you guys taking notes. Controlling for each of those elements, we still see persistent racial disparities in terms of the use of force towards both Black and Latino residents of Austin. But now what we're able to do is to compare the importance of race in producing those disparities to the importance of other factors like crime and income or poverty. They all matter. They don't all matter the same. Crime is the biggest predictor. We use Part 1 crimes here for those of you who are paying that level of attention. Crime is the biggest predictor, but race is still persistent. So what can we know from this? Again, we can't answer questions about the relationship between law enforcement and the community. We cannot answer questions about the police role per se, but what we can do is draw serious skepticism that community-level explanations are sufficient to explain persistent racial disparities in use of force, both severity and count. Let me say that in a little bit more plain English. No one should be saying the reason why there is more force used against Black than white or Latino than non-Latino in Austin is because of crime or poverty. That is not sufficient to explain it. That's consistent with what we found earlier this summer when we investigated 12 different departments on the same. I want to be clear. While this is the beginning of this process in Austin, it is also the beginning of the process nationwide. We will have more to say about this as we're able to look at the survey data from the department and survey data from communities, because community voice is absolutely crucial to understanding the relationship between communities and law enforcement. And again, this is the first time, though there are many departments that have asked for these reports, several who have seen versions of it, this is the first time that a chief said, before they saw the results, go ahead, tell the world what we found. And that kind of courage should not be undersold given the current political climate. We're now turn to Chief Acevedo to have a few words from his perspective. Chief.
Thanks, Don. Thank you, Doc. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for your patience for being here. You know, we are policing at a time in our nation's history where we do have some challenges, but with those challenges come opportunities. Since 2007, I've been the police chief here, and I've always talked about the importance of transparency, the importance of respect, the importance of engagement, the importance of accountability, and by doing those things, we build trust, and that's why we're here today. We know, we knew, we've all known, because we do produce volumes of reports every year, that there are some disparities in terms of race as it relates to the use of force. We knew that coming into this, and I still put it forward because what we also know is that there's a lack of transparency on the national level. There's a lack of data on the national level. And I think that what we are called upon as leaders in today's environment is for institutional courage. The Austin Police Department is a police department of 2,500 dedicated professionals that are committed to institutional courage. They are committed to putting the good, the bad, the ugly on the table, but most importantly, they are committed to the service of the people of this community. And I think that as we move to the next part in this survey, that we're going to find that we still have a lot of work, because we know that from the disparities, but we're also going to find that we have a lot of support and trust in this community, that we've built a lot of emotional capital because of our commitment to, I think, to respect and to accountability and to public service. You know, we are proud of the fact that the Austin Police Department is actually measuring data, capturing data that's important to the people that we serve. It's important, it's serve as an important indicator of legitimacy in terms of the police department's actions in this community. It's important for those that are not from Austin that don't realize the fact that we in the city of Austin actually have a very robust response to resistance investigation model, where every single incident of resistance or use of force is required to be documented, is required to be reviewed by the main supervisor and the chain of command, and is required to be assessed for the totality of the circumstances under which that use of force occurred and for the appropriateness of the use of force, not to mention the tactics and so on and so forth. It's also important to put into context the total number of incidents that we have where force is used. In 2015, the Austin Police Department made 44,037 arrests, 4.3% of which led to a use of force that can be anything other than unforced handcuffing techniques. Out of the 4.3% out of the 44,000 translates to 1,888 incidents of use of force. 89% of those 1,888 incidents involve the level 3, which is the lowest level of use of force in response to resistance. And it's important to note that out of 567,145 contacts in 2015, 0.3% or 1/3 of 1% led to any use of force whatsoever. So despite those low numbers, every use of force incident matters. It matters to the individual that the force was used on. It matters to their family. It matters to their neighbors. It matters to our community. And it matters to this police department. And that's why we're here, to look for opportunities to do better. As a nation, tonight, I'm calling upon all of my colleagues across the country to add context to the debate and to the ongoing question as to the health of our profession. Unless we as leaders exercise institutional and professional courage and start gathering this data nationwide, have it analyzed by social scientists nationwide, and look for the opportunities to take what we know is our imperfect organizations, imperfect relationships, and imperfect outcomes, and use that to make better opportunities for us to do better. We're going to be here 20 years from now, 30 years from now, still having some of the challenges. I'm looking forward to the second part, again, of this survey, where we